the NDP are on board with the Liberals. However, on the procurement scandal, yes, there's another scandal simultaneously happening. The NDP are actually pretty good on it.
Not good enough that they'll force the issue,
right.
but they'll do some play fighting. Do you have any clips to illustrate?
Sure. Well, I can illustrate just how bad the procurement cover-up is going on. So for those of you who don't know, and I don't know how you possibly couldn't, ArriveCan, as the scandal is called, involves multi-millions of dollars, approaching $60 million. The Liberals spent building the failed travel surveillance app, ArriveCan, and you got a fine if you didn't use this thing. And it was so flawed that it sent thousands of Canadians into quarantine under threat of a $5,000 fine when they didn't need to quarantine. And the app was replicated by some just random coders over a weekend for about tens of thousands of dollars. The company behind it was called GC Strategies. Guess what GC stands for? Government of Canada. They weren't even trying to hide it. And so now the CBSA officials involved in dishing out this contract, they're being called to testify at committee. And the top IT guy, so the guy who's the keeper of the emails and communications, he's the top IT guy in the federal government. His name is Min Doan.
So he works for the federal government, not for GC Strategies.
Right. He works for the federal government. So he's sort of the point man in all of this. Okay. He's a CBSA. He was working at CBSA at the time, top IT guy in the company. He's at the operations committee. And wouldn't you know it, all his emails related to just this, nothing else, just ArriveCan, they're gone. He says they're gone because his laptop died and then he lost all of his emails. Well, that's not quite how emails work. I'm not an IT professional, but I know that for sure.
Emails don't reside on the laptop. It's not like there's a box. I have a little box somewhere of my emails.
Yeah.
I dropped my emails and they fell down the gutter and yes. I lost my emails. Let's play the clip.
It's long. We might not need to watch it all, but it is outrageous that this is the top IT guy in the country.
Mr. Doan, you're the Chief Technology Officer of Canada. How long have you been working with computers and IT?
Over 25 years.
And you have training in computer science?
I do.
Do you have an accreditation?
I have a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Would you describe yourself as an IT expert?
I would.
You know how to code, secure data, program. You understand how computer networks work or operate?
I haven't coded in quite a while, but I do.
So there are investigations now ongoing about the missing emails, deleted emails. And I just want to make sure I understand correctly from your opening statement. Your contention is that because you switched the battery out in your laptop, thousands of records were deleted. I am not a computer expert, but I've switched out batteries a couple of times, and I've never heard of that happening. Would you say that that's quite common?
Let me clarify. I did not change the battery of my computer. I needed to change the computer as a whole. I was not merely changing the battery of my computer.
To change the whole computer.
Switched to French for that answer.
Yeah.
In the imaging process, someone wiped your computer? I just don't understand. This is not something that I've heard of. Usually there's quite robust processes. The IT staff here at the House of Commons, for example, in my experience with IT working with Department of National Defense, I've never heard of anything like this. And it's just, it seems incredible to believe that that's the story that you'd have us accept today. But it's incredibly convenient for you that these documents are missing. So how is it that you're both the victim of something that's exceedingly rare, but also the beneficiary of something that's exceedingly helpful for you?
Thank you for the question. Corrupt, what the technical term is corrupt PSTs. Corrupt PSTs are actually not exceedingly rare, fairly common. It's actually so common that Microsoft put a tool in every Windows computer to fix them. In terms of what you say, it is absolutely correct. You get a new computer, it is imaged, but in transferring, no different than if you were to get a home computer on a new home computer, you would want to
All right,
transfer
let's turn. I
That's
don't want to
good.
hear any more
Yeah,
lies.
he's
I mean,
lied.
he's just a liar. He's super gross. And this is what's troubling me is that Trudeau has placed liars in so many positions. I mean, Brenda Lucki was his chief liar at the RCMP. The new RCMP chief commissioner is just as bad. So if you're putting in place, I mean, he hasn't put his right-hand man in as auditor general yet. I don't
Right.
think. But that's really one of the few offices he hasn't corrupted. That is dog ate my homework bullshit. That it's just so like that's painful. Like that's something that a grade 5 kid would try. And there's something in the law called an adverse inference, because you can imagine in lawsuits, regular lawsuits all the time, people say, whoopsies, I lost all my records. I dropped them in a pothole or whatever this guy was saying. The courts, if you have, they call it spoliation, if you've spoiled your records, if you've lost your records, if you can't find them, well, Your Honor, yet that's not the first time that someone came up with that dog ate my homework excuse. People have been saying that for centuries. And so the courts take an adverse inference. If you do not have a rock solid, and even if you do have an excuse sometimes, judges say you're depriving me of information. You're trying to trick me. I'm going to assume the worst about them. I'm not going to assume the best. I'm not going to assume it's neutral. I'm going to make an adverse inference because you deleted it all. What a wicked liar. I'm so embarrassed for that little liar. And
The top IT guy in the country.
Yeah. That's an embarrassing moment for Canada right there.
Yeah, and it's also insulting to Canadians. Like that we don't use computers, that we haven't ever used a home computer and put our email on there.
But the emails, they all fell out. I was with my computer, Your Honor, and the emails all fell out, and then I spilled water on my emails.
Yes.
And some
then
of
the
the
dog
emails
came.
Yeah, and the dog totally ate the emails, and I don't know. The emails, they just blew away, Your Honor. It was really windy, and I tried to chase them.
Mm-hmm. But only the emails related to ArriveCan.
Yeah.
Just those. On the procurement scandal beat still, I clipped this morning. Minister of National Defense Bill Blair, he was testifying at committee to another scandal. These guys gave $115,000 in a middleman contract to SNC-Lavalin last year. Convicted fraudsters. And also, nobody seems to know what for. So this is post-original SNC-Lavalin scandal. So everything blows up in the Liberals' face with SNC-Lavalin. The Liberals pressure, not the Liberals, I should say, Justin Trudeau pressured Jody Wilson-Raybould to drop charges against them. She resigns and protests instead. That all blows up. And yet the Liberals still do business with SNC-Lavalin. And the best part about this is they don't even know what they gave them the money for. Let's watch.
List of all these middlemen contractors. These are contractors who are retained by the government of Canada to ultimately hire professionals. And surprisingly, one of the entries is from SNC-Lavalin, the company that was mired in controversy not too long ago, facing bribery, corruption, and fraud charges, ultimately put pressure so much on the Prime Minister and his staff that would lead to another conviction of ethical violations. They would be probably the last person the government of Canada would want to align itself with, yet SNC-Lavalin got $115,000. So the question is very simple. Why did taxpayer monies of $115,000 go to this company?
And again, I don't know that particular contract, and I don't know whether my officials would have that information, but I'd invite them to provide it if you require it.
Officials?
I don't have the details on that contract.
What
and
did
I'm
SNC-Lavalin do?
Not
You don't have details?
Sure,
You'll
Mr.
provide us
Chair,
with details?
when the dates were when that contract was in place,
Last year.
but we can look it up.
It was last year.
Nothing.
You know, 100,000 here, 100,000 there.
What's 115,000
Pretty soon you're
between
talking real
friends?
money.
Come on.
Actually, I shouldn't even say that because we talk about billions now so often
Yeah.
when it's waste. You know, this is the banana republicification of Canada. I think back a decade ago when the greatest scandal in Stephen Harper's tenure was Bev Oda, who was in a hotel and she wanted an orange juice. She went to the mini bar in the hotel. And if you've ever had drinks from a mini bar, you know they're super expensive because they got you. It's so convenient. It's right there.
Yep.
Are you going to reach and get that?
Spoken like a
pop?
man who's eaten one too many chocolate bars in a while.
That's right. I mean, $16 for an OJ, that's a lot. I don't even
Yeah.
know if she would have looked at it. So for a $16 orange juice, she was sacked. And by the way, the reason I regret that so much is that she actually cut millions of dollars in waste. She was sort of the foreign aid, if I recall,
Yep.
minister. So she actually saved taxpayers an astonishing amount of money, but for that one easily relatable, oh my God, $16 orange juice, that's
Right.
luxury. And the regime media went along with it because they wanted any excuse to dent Stephen Harper. Not a single financial scandal in his entire tenure. In fact, the only thing that came close to a scandal, and certainly the media tried to make it, was Mike Duffy submitting certain expenses as a senator, and the chief of staff, Nigel Wright, saying, yeah, you know what? These are questionable. I'm just going to pay it from my own pocket. I don't know if you remember that.
Right.
Nigel Wright
Right. It didn't cost taxpayers a thing.
personally paid the bill. That was the greatest financial scandal in 9 years of Stephen Harper. With Trudeau, it just doesn't stop.
Just before we move on from Bev Oda lost her job not because the regime media helped, but really her $16 orange juice was hard for conservatives to stomach.
Right.
And so that's the difference really right now between conservatives and liberals is conservatives they hold their politicians by and large to a certain standard. Just ask Jason Kenney. But the liberals, they don't. There's this bizarre tribalism that they will forgive any level of corruption because their man is in office.